The following is a very special episode of the Danville Discussion.
Yep, this is still my life.
Who's the normal guy behind your favorite super duo? Who's got a license and knows how to drive a van? Who got overlooked when they were giving superpowers? Who's got at least an average ability to plan? He's Kevin, Gretel's older brother.
If we can't do it, someone stronger probably can.
Kevin, Gretel's older brother.
If what you're looking for isn't necessarily someone with superpowers, but someone whose sister has superpowers, and he's your man.
And welcome to the Danville Discussion, a podcast about all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. I'm your host, Caleb Dirksen, and some of you may know me from my YouTube channel of the same name, home of some web series related to animation such as Caleb Reviews. If this is your first time listening to the Danville Discussion, well then, I'm going to give you its formula to give you an idea of what it is. This is a podcast in which I talk about every episode of either Phineas and Ferb or Hamster and Gretel, going over whatever I can find in terms of gags, cultural references, in-universe references, and fun facts, and then finally I will end things off by giving the episode a roller coaster rating. But this time, we're not going to be talking about a Phineas and Ferb or a Hamster and Gretel episode. It is still going to be related to the latter, but today I'm going to do something different. First off, I'm going to be reviewing the show's recent Theme Song Takeover starring Kevin. Then I'm going to be reviewing the recent trilogy of Chibi Tiny Tales shorts based on the show, which consists of Cream Mayhem, Museum Mayhem, and Roller Coaster Romance. If you want to check out more episodes of the Danville Discussion, then go to anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen and it'll take you directly to the Danville Discussion website on Anchor. You can also share your feedback or ask some questions you may have about this episode by emailing us at danvillediscussion@gmail.com with the number and title of this podcast episode in the subject line. Now to start this off, let's go right into the theme song takeover for Hamster and Gretel. And this theme song takeover was released on Saturday, September 17th, 2022, and it aired on Disney Channel and was also released on their YouTube channel. And this was the same day that the show's 7th episode aired, with the opposite of Smart and Birthday Besties, which I will talk about in the future. So what happens in this short is that Kevin is washing his mom's minivan because it got covered in mud from a battle that Hamster and Gretel had against a giant mud monster, who I assume will appear in a future episode because I looked at one of the posters for the show, and Hamster and Gretel fly in asking Kevin if he needs any help cleaning the vehicle, but Kevin declines the offer, and this gives Gretel an idea to turn a fire hydrant and smash it open in an attempt to help Kevin out. But the water bursting out accidentally sends Kevin backwards, just like at the beginning of Okie Dokie, and Gretel twists the tube of the hydrant to close it and says she needs to practice aiming, but then she and Hamster leave Kevin alone to finish the work, and I found that first part funny.
Wow, Kevin! Who knew fighting a giant mud monster would cause such a mess? Do you need any help cleaning?
No thanks, Gretel.
Wait, I have an idea! Whoops! I guess I need to practice aiming. You got this under control.
But then the alien ship that gave Hamster and Gretel their powers comes in over Kevin as he's standing by the minivan, and the moment the UFO says that Kevin has been chosen, Kevin thinks he's finally getting superpowers, but it turns out he has been chosen for a theme song takeover, and Kevin is annoyed at that because not only did they give superpowers to his sister and her hamster, but they're also literally giving powers to that fire hydrant, which is a cool visual gag.
Greetings, Earth creature! You have been chosen!
Am I finally gonna get superhero powers?
Chosen for a theme song takeover!
A theme song takeover? That's what you're here for?
Yeah, sorry, we don't give out powers just willy-nilly.
What? But you gave powers to my sister, her hamster. You're literally giving powers to that fire hydrant right now.
Plus, the aliens point out that they don't give out powers just willy-nilly. They want their customers to be grateful for what they receive. And then the theme song begins, except instead of Hamster and Gretel in their flying poses, they're carrying the minivan with Kevin in the driver's seat. And then I like that Kevin says a variation of his exchange from the pilot, saying, "Yep, this is still my life." The theme song also has different lyrics now that Kevin is in the spotlight. As Hamster and Gretel are running, Kevin tries to climb up the sphere, but then he gets exhausted and faints on it. Then when Hamster and Gretel fly past the scooter, Kevin parks the minivan only to knock over someone's motorcycle behind it. And so the lyrics claim that he has a license and knows how to drive a van, which he actually does, but doesn't really know how to park without bumping into another vehicle. And then Kevin is standing next to Gretel and Hamster as the latter two transform into their superhero selves, and Gretel points at Kevin along with some red arrows. And the next shot has an abstract background with blue and purple rays and white rectangles as we see a rotation of Kevin typing on a computer. Then we see Kevin standing and posing on top of a pile of various tools and objects as Hamster and Gretel fly in to see him in their spot. And then there's a shot of Kevin doing first aid on Gretel, followed by a shot of him using a plunger for toilet plumbing, and next he's trying to open a jar of pickles, but it's stuck, and Hamster flies through the jar to smash it open. One pickle that just burst out of the jar becomes a transition to the next shot, where Kevin is sweeping the floor with a broom and dustpan to clean up the mess containing the broken jar and the pickles, and Kevin ends up feeding some pickles to Hamster. It ends on the title card where Kevin poses in place of Hamster and Gretel, and the show's logo now reads Kevin, Gretel's older brother, which may as well be a spin-off of the show the way I see it, and the style of the logo reminds me of the structure in the 20th Century Studios logo, aka 20th Century Fox, with how three-dimensional it looks and how it's facing more to the left. And the last of the lyrics that are said, which are in place of "there's also Kevin in the minivan," appear on screen reading, "If what you're looking for isn't necessarily someone with superpowers, but someone whose sister has superpowers, then he's your man." And here's a fourth wall break I discovered. When Kevin is looking at the last lyrics that are being read out on screen, he becomes annoyed after reading "if what you're looking for isn't necessarily someone with superpowers," and does a facepalm after hearing "but someone whose sister has superpowers." I love that whole last bit and thought it was hilarious. Matter of fact, I actually really love this whole theme song takeover as a whole. I'd even say that it's even better than the original version due to how hilarious it can be. The aliens state that after that song, they now realize they have been remiss, but just as they're bestowing upon Kevin, he guesses again that he's getting superhero powers, but he instead ends up with super absorbent towels because he's soaking wet, and the aliens finally tell Kevin to give it up because he's never gonna get superpowers. The whole ending was hilarious too.
Kevin, after that song, we realize we have been remiss. We now bestow upon you
Powers? Superhero powers?
No, super absorbent towels. You're soaking wet. Dry off. You're not gonna get superpowers. Give it up.
Lastly, the animation on this short was mostly done by Synergy, and with what they did here, it looks pretty good. I barely saw that many Adobe Flash-like movements or choppy parts like most of the animation that Snipple would do for this show. The way they present it, it looks more fluent with a mostly hand-drawn feel to it, while the UFO does look tweened when rotating. So there you have it. That's Kevin's theme song takeover for Hamster and Gretel, the second theme song takeover for a Dwampyverse show after Dr. Doofenshmirtz's theme song takeover for Milo Murphy's Law. Not only is it well written and humorous, but it also has some solid animation from Synergy. If you enjoy this show and you haven't watched this short yet, I encourage you to do so. It's up on the YouTube channel for Disney Channel, and it's free to watch wherever you are. Now for our next part, the rest of this episode is going to be going over a new trilogy of Chibi Tiny Tales shorts inspired by Hamster and Gretel. And this is not the first time that this has happened for a Disney show from Dan Povenmire. This happened before with Phineas and Ferb in 2020, around the time that the Candace Against the Universe movie was coming out. These shorts are all 1 minute long. There's little to no dialogue in them unless you're part of the Chibiverse TV series, and they consist of Ice Cream Mayhem, Museum Mayhem, and Roller Coaster Romance. First, let's start with Ice Cream Mayhem, and this short was released on Disney Channel and their YouTube channel on Saturday, September 24th, 2022. For the plot of this short, Hamster and Gretel are leaving an ice cream shop with 4 scoops of ice cream on both of their cones in 2 different flavors, but just as they're getting ready to eat their ice cream, it gets zapped, melted, and blasted off by Professor Exclamation, a villain who has so far only appeared once in the show in Empower Failure. He zapped the ice cream with what seems to be his ray gun coming from the exclamation point on his hover pad, and I like the part when Hamster and Gretel are shocked at the sight of him, and there's a yellow exclamation point appearing above their heads, and he takes that exclamation point and slaps it on his head before he taunts the two by laughing sinisterly and giving them the thumbs down. Then we have this cute little title card where Hamster and Gretel appear on the top left and bottom right corners of the Chibi Tiny Tales logo in their superhero outfits. And then when we cut back to the rest of the short, Hamster and Gretel are angry at Professor Exclamation for melting their ice cream, and they get ready to transform into their superhero alter egos. Next, Gretel seems to break the fourth wall by bringing up the video player control panel and rewinding the short back to where it all started. But then, just as Professor Exclamation is about to melt their ice cream, the duo manage to avoid the zap, and the professor is shocked at this. As he prepares the ray gun on his hover pad once again, Hamster and Gretel switch to their superhero outfits, and Gretel breaks the fourth wall again by pressing the pause button on the video player, which freezes the effect as the ray is being fired. They leap into the air, fly up to Professor Exclamation, and remove him from his hover pad onto the ground in front of the ray, and then Gretel presses the pause button to resume the video, resulting in the professor to be zapped and melted into purple goo by his own hover pad. Hamster and Gretel do a fist bump, and then just before they eat their ice cream again, Professor Exclamation is back in his regular form, and he becomes infuriated that the duo foiled his plan, so they fly away from him as they're being zapped once again. Then Hamster brings up the control panel and fast forwards through the action, and our two heroes stop and see that the professor has become very old with an exclamation point for a cane, and when he's cranky, I hear the sound of a sheep bleeding, which was funny to me since there's hardly any dialogue in these Chibi Tiny Tales shorts. Finally, Hamster and Gretel capture Professor Exclamation, and when the previous scene pulls up, we see the professor in a rocking chair as the duo finally eat their ice cream in 3 different flavors now, but Gretel gives 1 flavor to the professor, and the short ends with Professor Exclamation breaking the fourth wall and pressing the like button on the video. Of course, I enjoyed a lot of the comedy throughout this short, and I especially found the lack of dialogue pretty neat. And as always for Chibi Tiny Tales in general, the animation looks pretty cute. I mean, it's a chibi cartoon, it has a hint of an anime feel to its chibi art style. What else do you expect? I love the expressions, whether they be shocked, annoyed, smiling, neutral, blowing raspberries, serious, you name it, they are cute and cool as H. This also helps with the over-the-top movements when Professor Exclamation is furious. Also, Hamster's chibi design kinda reminds me of Winnie the Pooh, or at least the Disney version. Though the stock sound effects from Hanna-Barbera and other libraries do feel a bit generic, the rest of the short was fun to watch. Like other Disney chibi shorts, it can be simple, but also cute and enjoyable at the same time. Now, our next Chibi short is called Museum Mayhem, which was released to Disney Channel and YouTube on Saturday, October 1st, 2022. In this short, Gretel, Kevin, and Hamster are at a museum in the dinosaur section, and Kevin seems to be pretty nervous because the moment he's standing under the skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, he pretty much becomes scared and faints, and Gretel has a sheepish look on her face. I chuckled when Kevin fainted here, it was cute. After the title card, the three are walking through the art displays, and in front of one of the paintings on the walls, they take an adorable selfie with cat ears on Kevin and Gretel, whiskers on Kevin, and bunny ears on Hamster, and Kevin does a cat face too. Plus, Gretel has hearts on her eyes and her cat ears. But then they become alarmed when they see Professor Exclamation and two security guards, and when the security guards exclaim, the professor gets the exclamation point and slaps it on his hat once again. I guess that might as well be a theme for these Chibi shorts with Professor Exclamation. Whenever someone is shocked at a problem and an exclamation point appears above their heads, you know that Professor Exclamation is going to be the main villain in these Hamster and Gretel Chibi shorts. And the reason that the security guards are mad is because Professor Exclamation has stolen a big diamond in the museum, and the guards chase after to arrest him. But then he escapes by blasting a hole in the wall with his exclamation ray, the same thing that melted Hamster and Gretel's ice cream in the previous short, and a painting falls onto the guards. As soon as Professor Exclamation shows up in front of Hamster, Gretel, and Kevin, the former two suit up and fight him off. And as they're fighting, Kevin is eating popcorn on a bench, and I spotted an in-universe reference on the Venus de Milo statue. It's literally Milo Murphy from Milo Murphy's Law, but his arms are chopped off just like the actual statue. And I gotta say, good for them for finally acknowledging Milo once again after a long time. Also, that one was a good pun/in joke, as well as a nice way to get around the nudity, because you can't display that on a family-friendly network. And it's fitting because if Milo Murphy was a piece of art, one might just know he's the one who most famously got injured. After sending the professor backwards, when the heroes fly past the literal Venus de Milo Murphy, the statue wobbles as if it's about to break apart since it is made of fragile stone material, and this alerts Kevin, and so he saves the statue. This means that while Hamster and Gretel fight Professor Exclamation, it's up to Kevin to prevent any historical artifacts in the museum from being ruined. One of those historical artifacts is a vase that he uses to drink the water from it in case he gets dehydrated. Professor Exclamation packs all the stolen museum artifacts onto his hover pad and flies off, but then Hamster and Gretel high-five each other, and then Gretel flies up and punches the professor out of sight, and the stolen artifacts fall down, but Hamster saves it all and flies off to restore them to their rightful spots in the museum, leaving behind a bone from a dinosaur skeleton toward Kevin. The first things that Hamster restores are the paintings, and there's yet another Milo Murphy's Law cameo. One of the paintings shows the OG playing cards. Hamster then restores the vases, and on the right of the other two vases is actually the magic lamp from Disney's Aladdin, and I could imagine if whoever rubs that lamp would actually bring the genie to life in Chibi form. Somebody please give us Aladdin as told by Chibi for Chibi Tiny Tales. I'm asking for it. Finally, when the three are leaving, Kevin restores that bone to the T-Rex skeleton from the beginning, and then said T-Rex comes to life, turns its head toward Kevin, and gives a thumbs up, and when Kevin gets scared, I chuckle when he lets out a chicken scream and faints. And that's the end. A lot of what I said regarding the previous short applies here with the humor, the lack of dialogue, and even the chibi animation. The punctuation symbols that appear above the characters' heads when they're in a panic, unamused, or angry situation, that use was very creative. I like the spinning spiral inside the thought bubble over Kevin's head when he reacts in fear to the T-Rex skeleton for the first time before fainting. And like I said, that selfie and the way that Hamster, Gretel, and Kevin express themselves in that, Oh god, I can't handle the cuteness. It just looks so cute and adorable. I can't resist. Plus, I like the sunburst effect when the security guards appear on screen, the diamonds in Professor Exclamation's eyes when he steals the diamond, the versus panels between Hamster and Gretel versus Professor Exclamation, and Kevin's face as he's watching the fight is just plain cute. The dots he has for his eyes just cracks me up. And the faces that Kevin and Professor Exclamation have when Kevin drinks the water from the vase and the professor packs the stolen artifacts, they really remind me of Shin-chan, a character from the Japanese manga series and anime Crayon Shin-chan. And again, most of the stock sound effects do feel somewhat generic, but besides that, this is another simple yet enjoyable chibi short based on Hamster and Gretel. I just can't resist the cuteness in this one. Now, the last chibi short is titled Roller Coaster Romance, and this came out on Disney Channel and YouTube on Saturday, October 8th, 2022. And the episode begins with some cameos of other Disney TVA characters, including Cricket Green from Big City Greens, Luz Noseda from The Owl House, and Anne Boonchoi and Polly Plander from Amphibia. They're all riding a roller coaster at an amusement park, and down below, as Kevin and Hiromi are walking through the amusement park, on the left there's a cameo of Bill Green, Cricket and Tilly's dad. Then Kevin points at a romantic Ferris wheel with hearts on each seat, and we have cameos of Luz Noseda and Amity Blight, both from The Owl House, and that explains the LGBT representation in that show. And we have some other Dwampyverse cameos, where Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb is with Grandma from Big City Greens, and Perry the Platypus, or Agent P, also from Phineas and Ferb. Well, he doesn't have a love interest with him, but I guess he's only there to thwart Doof. Then we turn to a romantic boat ride with two other Disney Channel characters, and then Kevin is shocked at the ride and points if he and Hiromi would like to go on that ride together, but Hiromi shakes her head no and picks the same roller coaster that had those other Disney TVA cameos. As we see the coaster again, there's a cloud at the top with thunder and lightning, and Kevin is shocked but also says yes, yet is pretty nervous at the same time. Then after the title card, Kevin, in his nervous state, is riding the roller coaster with Hiromi, thinking it could end in a romantic situation, but his thoughts are blasted by, once again, the return of Professor Exclamation with his robot henchmen. This means that Professor Exclamation is the main antagonist of all three Hamster and Gretel cartoons in Chibi Tiny Tales. But Hamster and Gretel show up to stop the professor once again. Then Kevin is struck by lightning at the top of the roller coaster, but he can't die from it, it's a cartoon! As Kevin and Hiromi are riding down with the roller coaster at high speed, Professor Exclamation zaps the Ferris wheel, causing it to build a narrow tunnel over the roller coaster tracks, and when Kevin sees this, he lets out the chicken scream, and he and Hiromi ducked under it. And Hiromi is confused as to what's going on, and Kevin tries to give out an explanation for the chaos that's surrounding them. Then Hamster and Gretel are chasing after Professor Exclamation and his robots as they zap another laser, but the heroes are shooting lasers themselves too as they track the robots down, and this causes the tracks to burst into flames, which shocks Kevin yet again, and causes him to build a ramp with wood to get the coaster to jump over the flames in slow motion. Professor Exclamation believes himself to be victorious, but our heroes punch him out of sight right into a forthcoming part of the roller coaster with the sound of a bowling ball knocking down a bunch of pins, which breaks off the top of the hill. Kevin is scared once again, thinking that they're gonna fall to their death on that broken part, and that explains the speech bubble with the skull inside, which was clever to me. So Kevin grabs Hiromi and jumps off the roller coaster, which explodes into pieces, and he uses his orange vest as a parachute when falling down. But then it rips apart and they fall into the pool in the Love Boat attraction. This is then followed by a really cute moment between the two where Hiromi hugs Kevin with this speech bubble containing a heart, thinking it was the best ride ever, and that she might as well be Kevin's fiancée. The last part has Hamster and Gretel floating down to see this romantic moment, and they both high-five each other for accomplishing their mission to keep Kevin and Hiromi together, and that's the end of this little chibi cartoon. Like the previous two shorts, this one has some nice humor and some good chibi-style animation despite most of the usage of generic Hanna-Barbera-style stock sound effects. For the animation in this short, I like the use of speech bubbles with symbols to describe the feelings and situations that they have, and even the 3 yellow lines above Kevin's forehead when he gets an idea, and 3 red lines when he nervously agrees to Hiromi's decision, plus the hearts over that High School Musical-ish couple in the boat with the sparkle effect, and the sunburst sometimes when the characters would get in a shocked reaction. It was also funny when Kevin pointed at that one ride, moving his arm like a robot. Professor Exclamation's robots have a different color scheme to them compared to how they appeared in Empower Failure from the show. In Empower Failure, the robots were in completely silver metal, but here they're white on their heads, joints, and wheelbases, purple on their screw heads, torsos, and arms, and yellow or gold on their claws. To me, that color scheme looks weird. I mean, I guess that it's supposed to match Professor Exclamation's color scheme, but I don't know which color palette is better on the robots, the one in Empower Failure or the one in Chibi Tiny Tales. But it was also nice that they used 3 red wedges to show the alarmed state that Kevin is in when he sees that the roller coaster tracks are on fire, and when Professor Exclamation laughs evilly. But now for my overall thoughts on these shorts. They're all kind of simple, but they're also a lot of fun, and they even look cute as well. The stock sound effects might be sort of generic, but the animation emulates the chibi style very well. The humor works very well even for a chibi short. It's everything you'd expect from Chibi Tiny Tales. If you enjoy Hamster and Gretel, I'd say give these shorts a watch. Now finally, let us go ahead and end all this with our roller coaster rating, or roller coaster ratings in this case. So now, how many roller coasters out of 10 would I give the Theme Song Takeover and the Chibi Tiny Tales shorts of Hamster and Gretel? I'm going to give the Theme Song Takeover a 9.5 out of 10 because it made me laugh from beginning to end. Kevin was really likable, and Synergy managed to deliver on the animation. For the Chibi Tiny Tales shorts with Ice Cream Madness, Museum Madness, and Roller Coaster Romance, I'm just going to give every single one of them the same rating, but not really what I gave to the Theme Song Takeover. I'm going to give them an 8.5, since they may be simple with the sound effects, but they did manage to be very cute and charming with the style that the Chibi Tiny Tales series in general is known for. Now it's time to go to our Twitter poll results from 2 weeks ago. To give you those results once again, we turn over to our reporter. Hello listeners once again. I, the reporter, am back to bring you the results of our latest Twitter poll. And now, here they are. We asked our listeners, which of these 3 main characters from hashtag Hamster and Gretel is your favorite? Hashtag Danville Discussion poll. The choices were A. Gretel Grant Gomez, B. Hamster, and C. Kevin Grant Gomez. 28% got their wit from Hamster. 33 rode with the punches with Gretel. But 39% said their absolute favorite was Kevin, the guy who runs into bad luck. There were 18 votes in total. And now, let's return to Caleb to hear what he has to say, and then to get a brand new Twitter poll. This is the reporter signing out. Thank you, reporter. Now for my choice, what would I pick out of those 3 to be my favorite main character in Hamster and Gretel? Well, I'm actually going to do a tie between Hamster and Kevin. Hamster has such a personality, and his one-liners are often hilarious, all done with a nice performance by Beck Bennett. And Kevin, while he might sometimes get bad luck, his personality and wit as well as his relationship with Gretel are what makes him a standout character. And his voice actor Michael Cimino does a really good performance here. So yeah, it's a tie. Now, I don't normally do something like this for bonus episodes like I do for normal episodes, but I'm going to go and launch a new Twitter poll for this week, and it's going to be both Hamster and Gretel related yet again, and Chibi Tiny Tales related. So the question for this week is, which of these three hashtag Chibi Tiny Tales shorts based on hashtag Hamster and Gretel is your favorite? Hashtag Danville Discussion poll. Obviously listing down three here because that's all there is, and those three are in the order of which they released on YouTube. A. Ice Cream Mayhem, B. Museum Mayhem, and C. Roller Coaster Romance. To find this poll, all you have to do is go onto Twitter and search for my secondary account at Caleb the PNF Guy, or search for hashtag Danville Discussion poll, and then you can go right over there and make your voice heard. And that's all I've got for this week, so thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Danville Discussion. As for me, you can find me on my Facebook page at Real Caleb Dirksen, on my Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok pages at Caleb Dirksen2 with the number 2, on my alternate Twitter page at Caleb the PNF Guy, on my Instagram pages at Caleb.Dirksen for my main page or at Caleb Flynn Fletcher for my alternate page, and on my DeviantArt page at Caleb Dirksen20. You can also find me on Discord by typing the username Caleb Dirksen in 2 words, and then the code number 4600. And if you go to the invite link in the description below, it'll also invite you to my Discord server so that you can talk with me about anything, including this podcast or my other content. You can also find me on YouTube. All you have to do is just search for Caleb Dirksen and look for the icon of me as a soldier. And if you want to support my work and get some great rewards all at once, which even includes getting access to my content before anyone else, such as my videos, my podcast episodes, or anything like that, then you can become a patron on patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen. I highly appreciate your support over there. As for this podcast, we are available to listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and you can also find us on Anchor by using your Apple or Android device or going on the web at anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen. It'll take you directly to the Danville Discussion page. If you guys listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast browser, then can you just go ahead and rate and review this show? That would be nice as long as you're not trying to be a cyberbully. And if you've been listening to this podcast as a video on YouTube, then go and click that like button on our video and leave us a little comment with your thoughts on all this Hamster and Gretel bonus content. You can also share your feedback or ask some questions by sending us an email at danvillediscussion@gmail.com with the number and title of this episode in the subject line. Join us next time, and I'm going to be doing something unusual for the Danville Discussion. I'm going to be getting into the newest episode of Chibiverse called The Great Chibi Mix-Up, because it has Phineas and Ferb as the host, plus one more host being loose from the Owl House, so it's kind of like a crossover between Phineas and Ferb and the Owl House. So, tune in next time for the latest episode of the Danville Discussion and all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. And with that said, thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, this is Caleb, over and out. This podcast was created strictly and only for entertainment and information purposes. It is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company, Disney Television Animation, or their affiliates. All and any names, images, clips, sounds, or other items related to Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law, Hamster and Gretel, and other Disney properties are trademarks and or copyrights of their respective holders. All original content from this podcast is the intellectual property of the Danville Discussion and the host or hosts running the podcast, unless otherwise noted.